Jin So-jun wiped the sweat from his forehead as he worked on the dark matter engine deep in the belly of the ship. The metal walls around him hummed with energy that made his teeth ache. He had been fixing these engines for 3 years now, but they still made him nervous. Dark matter was dangerous stuff. One wrong move, and the whole ship could be torn apart. The Concordia was a big research vessel. It belonged to both humans and the Velkari Empire. The Velkari were tall aliens with blue skin and 4 arms. They were smart and had ruled space for thousands of years. Humans were new to space travel. Most aliens thought humans were useful but not very important. Jin heard footsteps behind him. Dr. Yuki Tanaka walked into the engine room. She was his research partner and one of only 12 humans on the ship. The rest of the crew was Velkari. "How are the engines looking?" Tanaka asked. Her voice sounded worried. "Something is wrong with them," Jin said. He pointed to the readings on his screen. "They keep trying to connect to something outside the ship, but there is nothing out there, except empty space." That was not exactly true. They were near a dark matter field that was bigger than anything anyone had ever seen. It stretched for millions of miles in all directions. The field was why they were here. The Velkari wanted to study it. "The field is getting stronger," Tanaka said. She looked at her tablet. "It has grown by 20% in the last hour." Jin felt cold fear in his stomach. Dark matter fields were not supposed to grow. They were supposed to stay the same size. If this one was getting bigger, it meant something very bad was about to happen. Suddenly, alarms started ringing throughout the ship. Red lights flashed on the walls. Jin and Tanaka looked at each other with wide eyes. A voice came over the speakers. It was Thekvar, the Velkari expedition leader. "All crew to emergency stations. Prepare for immediate evacuation. The dark matter field is expanding rapidly. We have less than 2 hours before it consumes the ship." Jin ran toward the door, but it slammed shut in front of him. He pressed the button to open it, but nothing happened. The door was locked. "Emergency protocols activated," the computer said. "Engine room sealed due to dark matter contamination risk." "What?" Jin hit the door with his fists. "Let me out." Tanaka tried her access codes, but they did not work either. The blast doors were made to keep people safe during emergencies. But now, they were trapping Jin inside. They heard running footsteps in the hallways outside. The Velkari crew was moving fast. Jin pressed his face against the small window in the door. He could see Velkari soldiers running past with equipment and supplies. "Tanaka to bridge," she said into her communicator. "Jin is trapped in the engine room. We need to override the blast doors." Thekvar's voice came back, cold and clear. "Dr. Tanaka, report to Evacuation Bay 3 immediately. All humans are being evacuated first." "I will not leave Jin behind," she said. "You will follow orders, Doctor. The human sacrifice will be noted in our records. His work here will be remembered." Jin felt like someone had punched him in the stomach. Sacrifice? They were leaving him here to die on purpose. "You cannot do this," Tanaka shouted into her communicator. "He is a member of this crew." But there was no answer. The communication channel was dead. More footsteps ran past the door. Jin could hear the Velkari talking in their own language. Their voices sounded urgent but not panicked. They had planned this. They knew this would happen, Jin said quietly. They brought us here, knowing the field might expand. And they always planned to leave someone behind. Tanaka was crying now. She tried every code she knew, but the doors stayed locked. "I am not leaving you," she said. "You have to," Jin told her. "If you stay, we both die. If you go, maybe you can tell people what really happened here." Heavy footsteps stopped outside the door. Through the window, Jin could see two big Velkari soldiers. One of them spoke into a communicator. "Dr. Tanaka is still in the sealed area." "Orders?" Thekvar's voice was clear. "Bring her to the evacuation bay. Use force if necessary." The door to the hallway opened. The soldiers came in and grabbed Tanaka by her arms. She fought them, but they were much stronger than she was. "Jin," she screamed, as they dragged her away. "I will come back for you. I promise." Then she was gone. Jin was alone. The ship felt different now. It was quieter. The vibrations from the engines had changed. Jin looked at his instruments and saw something impossible. The dark matter engines were not shutting down like they should. Instead, they were getting stronger. Jin had worked with dark matter engines for years. They were supposed to create small amounts of dark matter to push the ship forward. But now they were making much more than usual. And the dark matter was not going away. It was building up around the ship like a cloud. He checked the readings again. The numbers made no sense. According to his instruments, the ship was now surrounded by more dark matter than should be possible to create. But the engines were not breaking. They were working better than ever. Jin felt a strange tingling in his head. It was like hearing a sound that was too low to really hear. He looked at the engine core through the protective glass. The dark matter inside was glowing with a soft blue light. Dark matter was not supposed to glow. It was not supposed to be visible at all. But as Jin watched, the light seemed to pulse in time with his heartbeat. It was almost like the engine was alive, like it was trying to talk to him. The ship shook as it moved deeper into the dark matter field. Outside the small window, Jin could see space itself looking wrong. The stars were bent and twisted. Reality was breaking down out there. But inside the engine room, Jin felt strangely calm. The fear was still there, but underneath it was something else. Something that felt like understanding, even though he did not understand anything at all. The engines pulsed brighter, and Jin felt his mind reaching out toward them without meaning to. For just a moment, he could feel the dark matter around the ship, like it was part of his own body. He could sense its patterns and flows like ocean currents made of pure energy. Then the feeling was gone, leaving Jin gasping and confused. But deep down, he knew something important had just happened. The Valkyrie had left him here to die. But maybe dying was not what the universe had planned for him after all. 3 days had passed since the Valkyrie left Jin alone on the ship. At least, he thought it was 3 days. Time worked strangely in this place. Sometimes, his watch would move fast. Sometimes it would move slow. Once, he watched the numbers go backward for an entire hour. The ship was deep in the dark matter field now. When Jin looked out the windows, space did not look right. The stars were stretched into long lines. Sometimes, he saw colors that did not have names. The laws of physics seemed to change from room to room. But Jin was still alive. The ship's life support should have failed by now. The air should be poison. The heat should be gone. Instead, everything worked perfectly. Better than perfectly. The air tasted cleaner than it ever had. The lights were brighter. Even the food from the emergency supplies tasted better. Jin spent most of his time in the engine room. The dark matter engines fascinated him. They had completely changed since entering the field. Instead of the simple machines he knew, they had become something complex and beautiful. Patterns of energy flowed through them like living things. The Valkyrie computers had all failed on the second day. Their screens showed only static and error messages. But Jin found he did not need computers anymore. When he looked at the engines, he could understand what they were doing just by watching them. The patterns told him stories. He learned that the dark matter field was not empty space. It was full of information, memories, knowledge from civilizations that had lived and died millions of years ago. The engines were not making dark matter. They were learning to speak its language. And somehow, Jin could understand that language too. It started small. He would put his hand near the engine core and feel warmth that had nothing to do with heat. Pictures would appear in his mind. Not his own memories, but memories from somewhere else. He saw worlds he had never visited. People who were not human. On the fourth day, Jin tried something that should have killed him. He took off the protective gloves that kept workers safe from dark matter radiation. Then he reached out and touched the engine core with his bare hand. The energy hit him like lightning, but it did not hurt. Instead, it felt like coming home after a long trip. His mind expanded beyond his body. For a moment, he could feel the entire dark matter field around him. It stretched between stars like a giant web, connecting everything in the galaxy. Jin saw that he was not the first person to discover this. Long ago, there had been others. They called themselves the Navigators. They had learned to travel between stars, using the dark matter highways. But something had happened to them. They had vanished, leaving only ruins and echoes of their knowledge. When Jin pulled his hand away from the engine, he was different. He could still feel the dark matter around him, even without touching the engines. It was like having a new sense. He could feel its currents and flows. He could even change them a little bit. Over the next few days, Jin practiced. He learned to use his mind to adjust the ship's position in the field. He could make the lights brighter or dimmer just by thinking about it. He could even create small pockets where time moved normally. But the most amazing discovery came when Jin was feeling lonely and sad. He missed Dr. Tanaka. He missed having other people to talk to. As he sat in the engine room thinking about his old life, the engines suddenly flared with bright light. Images appeared in Jin's mind. Other ships. Other people trapped in dark matter fields, just like this one. Some had been here for years. Some were dying. All of them were calling for help. Jin realized that the dark matter network connected more than just space. It connected all the places where space was broken. All the ships that had been lost in dark matter storms or pulled into anomalies. They were all still out there, trapped between the stars, and Jin could reach them. He spent hours learning to extend his senses through the network. It was like learning to use muscles he never knew he had. The dark matter carried his thoughts across impossible distances. He could touch the minds of people he had never met. The first contact he made was with a woman named Elena Rodriguez. Her cargo ship had been pulled into a dark matter storm 3 years ago. She had been alone all that time, slowly going crazy from the isolation. When Jin's thoughts reached her, she nearly fainted from shock. "Who is there?" she asked. "Am I finally losing my mind completely?" "My name is Jin," he told her through the dark matter connection. "I am human. Like you. I am trapped too. But I think I can help." Elena started crying. She had not heard another human voice in 3 years. "How are you doing this?" she asked. "How are you in my head?" Jin tried to explain about the engines and the dark matter network. It sounded crazy, even to him. But Elena listened. She was desperate enough to believe in anything that might save her. "Can you get me out of here?" she asked. Jin looked at the ship around him. The Concordia was much bigger than a cargo ship. It had more powerful engines. More importantly, Jin was learning to use abilities that no human had ever had before. "I think so," he said. "But I need to learn more first. I need to understand how this all works." Over the following days, Jin made contact with others. There was Marcus Chen, a researcher who had been studying dark matter when his lab ship was pulled into an anomaly 8 years ago. There was a Velkari science team that had been trapped for 6 months. There were even a few members of other alien races. But only the humans could do what Jin was doing. Only humans could think in the chaotic, creative way that let them interface with dark matter. The aliens were too logical, too ordered in their thinking. Their minds could not bend enough to match the strange patterns of the network. Marcus had figured this out years ago. He had learned to partially control his environment, but he could not reach other ships like Jin could. "You are different," he told Jin. "Stronger. The field responds to you like it responds to no one else." Jin was beginning to understand why the Velkari had really left him behind. Their instruments had detected something unusual happening when he worked near the engines. They had not abandoned him out of cruelty. They had abandoned him out of fear. Humans were not just different from other races. In this strange place between stars, they were more powerful. As Jin practiced with his abilities, he began to change the ship itself. He guided dark matter into the broken systems, healing them with his mind. He created stable corridors where physics worked normally. He even learned to store energy in dark matter patterns that could power the ship indefinitely. The Concordia was becoming something new. Not just a ship, but a bridge between normal space and the dark matter network. A place where the impossible became possible. And Jin was becoming something new too. He could feel his consciousness expanding every day. Soon, he would be ready to start rescuing the people who called to him through the dark. Soon, he would show the galaxy that being left to die was just the first step toward becoming something greater. But first, he had to master the darkness completely. He had to become its navigator. Jin stood in what used to be the cargo bay of the Concordia. But now, it was something else entirely. The walls shimmered with dark matter patterns that moved like living circuits. The air itself glowed with soft blue light. This was his control center, the heart of his growing network. 2 weeks had passed since Jin first made contact with other trapped ships. Now he could reach dozens of them across the galaxy. Each human he found added to his understanding of the dark matter highways. Together, they were mapping a hidden universe that existed between the stars. "Elena, are you ready?" Jin asked. His voice carried through the dark matter network to her cargo ship thousands of light years away. "As ready as I can be," Elena replied. Her mental voice was shaky but determined. "I trust you, Jin. Just please tell me this will work." Jin had spent days preparing for this first rescue attempt. He had learned to tear holes in space itself, creating tunnels where normal physics could exist inside the chaos of dark matter. But he had never tried to move another ship through these tunnels. He reached out with his mind, feeling for Elena's ship. There it was, a tiny spark of metal and life floating in the dark currents. Jin began to weave patterns around it, creating a bubble of stable space-time. The process was exhausting. Sweat poured down Jin's face as he worked. But slowly, carefully, he began to pull Elena's ship toward him through the dark matter highways. Reality bent and twisted around them both. Then, suddenly, Elena's cargo ship appeared in the space next to the Concordia. Both vessels were floating in a pocket of normal space that Jin had created inside the dark matter field. Elena's voice came over the radio. Not through the dark matter connection. She was laughing and crying at the same time. "Jin, I can see your ship. I can see another human being. Oh God, I thought I would never see another person again." Jin smiled. It was the first time he had smiled in weeks. "Welcome to the network, Elena." Elena docked with the Concordia an hour later. When she stepped through the airlock, she stared around in amazement. The ship looked nothing like it had when Jin first arrived. Dark matter patterns covered every surface, glowing with their own light. The air moved in impossible ways, creating rooms that were bigger inside than outside. "What did you do to this place?" Elena asked. "I let it become what it wanted to be," Jin said. "The dark matter does not just connect spaces. It connects possibilities. This ship exists in several dimensions at once now." Elena was a practical person. She had been a cargo pilot before her ship was lost, but even she could feel the power humming in the walls around her. "All of them," Jin said, "but I need help. Each rescue makes the network stronger, but it also makes me more tired. With 2 of us working together, we can save twice as many people." Elena learned quickly. She could not interface with dark matter as powerfully as Jin, but she had her own strengths. Her pilot's instincts helped her navigate the strange currents of the network. Within days, she was helping Jin guide rescued ships to safety. Their next rescue was Marcus Chen. His research ship had been trapped in dark matter for 8 years. In that time, he had learned more about the field than any other human alive. But he had also been slowly going insane from isolation. When Jin and Elena brought Marcus to the Concordia, he was shaking with excitement. "Do you understand what we have found here?" he asked. "This network connects every part of the galaxy. We can travel instantly between any 2 points. We have access to knowledge from civilizations that died before humans even existed." Marcus had discovered ruins inside the dark matter field. They belonged to the Navigators, the ancient race that had first mastered travel between the stars. Their cities existed in folded space, invisible to normal sensors. Jin and his growing team began exploring these ruins. The Navigators had left behind technology that worked on principles humans were just beginning to understand. Machines that ran on thought instead of power. Computers that stored information in the structure of space itself. Art that changed depending on who looked at it. But most importantly, they had left behind warnings. The Navigators did not vanish, Marcus explained as they studied ancient holographic records. They evolved beyond physical form. They became part of the dark matter network itself. But first, they had to fight a war. The war had been against races that wanted to control the dark matter highways. These races saw the network as a weapon, a way to appear anywhere in the galaxy without warning. They tried to build machines that could navigate dark matter without the intuitive understanding the Navigators possessed. The result had been catastrophic. Entire star systems had been consumed by dark matter storms. The fabric of space itself had been damaged. In the end, the Navigators had sacrificed their physical existence to stabilize the network and hide it from those who would abuse it. That is why only humans can use the network safely, Jin realized. We think like the Navigators did. We understand that some things cannot be controlled, only cooperated with. Quote, as Jin's rescue network grew, they began establishing hidden bases inside the dark matter field. These bases existed outside normal space-time, invisible to conventional sensors. They became safe havens for rescued crews and research stations where humans could study navigator technology. The rescued humans came from every part of the galaxy. Some had been lost for days, others for years. They included cargo pilots, research scientists, military officers, and civilian passengers. All of them had been written off as dead by their governments and families. But here in the space between stars, they found new purpose. Elena became Jin's second in command, coordinating rescue operations. Marcus led the research team studying navigator ruins. Others worked on expanding the network or maintaining the hidden bases. They also rescued non-humans when they could. The Valkyrie science team, that had been trapped for months, was amazed to see Jin's abilities. Unlike the Valkyrie who had abandoned him, these scientists were grateful and eager to learn. Your mind works in ways ours cannot, Doctor. Kelthar, the Valkyrie team leader, told Jin. You see patterns where we see only chaos. Perhaps this is why humans were needed in the galaxy. As the network grew stronger, Jin began to sense something else. Ships and stations throughout normal space were detecting impossible rescue operations. Vessels that had been lost for years were suddenly appearing at safe ports with their crews alive and well. The rescued people told stories about humans who could travel through dark matter like it was empty space. Word was spreading through the galaxy, and not everyone was happy about it. Jin intercepted communications from several governments discussing the dark matter terrorists who were stealing lost ships. The Valkyrie Empire had issued orders to capture any humans found near dark matter anomalies. They called Jin's network a threat to galactic security. They are afraid, Elena said when Jin shared this news with his team. They ruled space for thousands of years because they controlled faster than light travel. Now humans have found something better, and they cannot use it themselves. Jin nodded. He had felt the fear in the communications he intercepted. The galactic powers had always seen humans as useful servants. Now humans had become something they could not control or understand. "They will come looking for us," he said. "And when they do, we need to be ready." Jin looked around at his team. A few months ago, they had all been lost and abandoned. Now, they were the guardians of the galaxy's most powerful transportation network. They had become something greater than any of them could have imagined. But their greatest test was still ahead. The galaxy's rulers would not let humans control the dark matter highways without a fight. Soon, Jin would have to choose between hiding forever and showing the universe that the abandoned could become the indispensable. The war for the stars was about to begin. Admiral Jektor stood on the bridge of his flagship, studying the holographic display that showed the Valkyrie fleet. 50 ships, the largest force the Empire had assembled in decades, all because of one human who refused to stay dead. "Admiral," his communications officer reported, "we are receiving another distress signal from the research vessel, Bright Path. They claim to be under attack by dark matter storms." Jektor's forearms moved in the gesture that meant disgust. "Another trap. The humans are using our own rescue instincts against us." Next to him, Dr. Yuki Tanaka shifted uncomfortably. She had been assigned to the fleet as a human psychology expert. The Valkyrie believed she could help them predict Jin's actions. But Tanaka was beginning to question whose side she was really on. "Admiral," she said carefully, "what if the Bright Path really is in trouble? Jin's network has saved hundreds of ships. They do not attack people. They rescue them. They steal them," Jektor corrected. "Every ship they rescue becomes part of their terrorist network. They are building a fleet in the shadows, preparing for war against civilized space." Tanaka wanted to argue, but she had seen the intelligence reports. Jin's rescue network had grown beyond anything the Valkyrie had expected. Over 200 ships had disappeared from their last known positions, only to appear days or weeks later at safe ports. Their crews told impossible stories about humans who could tear holes in space itself. The Valkyrie government had declared Jin and his followers enemies of galactic peace. They accused the human network of stealing military secrets and disrupting shipping lanes. But Tanaka knew the real reason for the Valkyrie's anger. For the first time in their history, they had encountered something they could not control. "Set course for the Bright Path's position," Jektor ordered. "Deploy the dark matter containment devices. When the human terrorists arrive, we will be ready for them." The fleet moved toward the distress signal. Tanaka watched the stars wheel by outside the viewport and wondered what had happened to Jin during the months since the Concordia was abandoned. The man she had known was gentle and thoughtful, but the reports described someone with powers that defied physics. 8 hours later, they reached the Bright Path. The research vessel was indeed in trouble, caught at the edge of a growing dark matter field. Its engines were failing, and its hull was starting to buckle under impossible forces. "Deploy containment fields around the anomaly," Jektor ordered. "When the humans arrive to steal this ship, we will trap them all." Jektor A. The Valkyrie fleet spread out in a complex formation. Each ship carried experimental technology designed to disrupt dark matter fields. If it worked, they could prevent the humans from using their transportation network. They did not have to wait long. Reality began to bend near the Bright Path as space folded in ways that hurt to look at. A tunnel of normal space appeared in the middle of the dark matter storm, and through it came 3 human vessels. Jin stood on the bridge of the Concordia, now transformed beyond recognition. The ship existed in multiple dimensions at once, its hull flowing like liquid metal. Around him, Elena and Marcus coordinated with the rescue teams. "Valkyrie fleet detected," Elena reported. 50 ships in containment formation. They are trying to trap us in normal space." Jin nodded. He had expected this. The galaxy's powers would not let humans control the dark matter network without a fight. Through his connection to the field around them, he could sense the Valkyrie containment devices. They were crude but effective, designed to force everything in the area to exist in only 3 dimensions. Marcus, can you get the Bright Path's crew out? Jin asked. Already working on it, Marcus replied. His consciousness flowed through the dark matter network, reaching out to the trapped research vessel. One by one, he began teleporting the Valkyrie crew to safety aboard the human ships. Admiral Jektor watched in amazement as his containment field had no effect on the human rescue operation. How are they doing this? He demanded. His science officer studied the readings with all 4 hands dancing over his instruments. Unknown, Admiral. They appear to be using forms of physics that our technology cannot measure. On the Bright Path, the last crew member disappeared in a flash of dark energy, but instead of fleeing, the human ships turned toward the Valkyrie fleet. Jin's voice came over all communication channels, speaking in perfect Valkyrie. Admiral Jektor, you have endangered your own people by using them as bait. We have rescued your crew, but we will not ignore this act of aggression. Jektor's mandibles clicked with rage. Surrender, terrorist. You are outnumbered 50-3. Numbers mean little here, Jin replied. The space around the Valkyrie fleet began to change. Reality twisted and folded as Jin reached out with his consciousness. The Admiral watched in horror as his ships found themselves floating in separate pockets of space-time, unable to communicate or support each other. Dr. Tanaka gasped as she recognized the impossible geometries forming around them. He has trapped the entire fleet in individual dimensional bubbles. Each ship is now alone in its own piece of space. Jektor tried to order his fleet to attack, but his communications could not reach the other ships. Each vessel was isolated in a prison of twisted physics, where their weapons and sensors barely functioned. Through the viewports, Tanaka could see the Concordia approaching their ship. It moved without engines, flowing through space like a living thing. As it came closer, she could see Jin standing on what might have been its bridge, surrounded by patterns of energy that hurt to look at directly. Dr. Tanaka, Jin's voice spoke directly into her mind. It has been a long time. Tanaka felt tears in her eyes. The man speaking to her was Jin, but he was also something far more than human now. She could sense the vast network of consciousness flowing through him, connecting him to every human in the dark matter realm. Jin, she whispered. What have you become? Jin, what I needed to become, he replied. What humans needed to become. The galaxy is vast and dangerous. Someone must watch over the dark spaces between stars. Admiral Jektor raised his weapon, pointing it at Tanaka. Tell your terrorist friend to release my fleet, or I will execute you as a traitor. Jin's mental voice became cold. Admiral, you abandoned me to die in the dark matter field. You used your own crew as bait to trap my people. You call us terrorists, while you threaten innocent lives. Who is the real enemy of peace? The energy patterns around Jin flared brighter. Through the viewport, Tanaka could see other human ships appearing. Dozens of them, each one flowing with the same impossible grace as the Concordia. The rescue network had become a fleet. You have 2 choices, Jin continued. Acknowledge our right to travel the dark matter highways freely, or remain trapped in these dimensional prisons forever. Your technology is useless here. Your weapons cannot touch us. Your empire ends where our realm begins. Jektor's face showed the fear that all Valkyrie felt when confronted with something beyond their understanding. For thousands of years, they had been the masters of space. Now they faced beings who existed beyond the laws of physics they knew. This is impossible, the Admiral said. Humans are primitives. You have barely learned to travel between stars. We learned from teachers you could never imagine, Jin replied. The navigators left more than ruins in the dark matter network. They left wisdom. They taught us that true power comes not from controlling the universe, but from understanding our place within it. Tanaka stepped forward, removing her Valkyrie uniform and letting it fall to the deck. Jin, I want to come with you. I made a mistake working with the Empire. I should have searched for you instead of believing you were dead. Jin's expression softened. Yuki, you chose to survive. There is no shame in that. But I cannot simply take you away from here. The choice to join us must be freely made, with full understanding of what it means. What does it mean? She asked. It means leaving your old life behind completely. It means accepting that you will never be fully human again. It means becoming part of something larger than yourself. Around them, the Valkyrie crew watched in terrified silence. Their flagship, pride of the Empire's fleet, was helpless against 3 human vessels. Everything they had believed about their superiority in space had been shattered. Jin turned his attention back to Admiral Jektor. I will give you 1 hour to consider my offer. Think carefully. The age of Valkyrie dominance is ending. The question is whether it ends in cooperation or in conflict. The dimensional barriers around the Valkyrie ships flickered, allowing limited communication between them. Jektor could hear his captains reporting the same thing from every vessel. Their weapons were useless. Their engines would not respond. And reality itself seemed to be under the control of the human fleet. For the first time in his military career, the admiral realized he was facing an enemy he could not defeat. The only question was whether his pride would let him admit it before it was too late. Admiral Jektor stared at the countdown timer on his screen. 53 minutes remained before Jin's deadline expired. Around him, his bridge crew waited in tense silence. Outside, the impossible human fleet hung in space like predators made of light and energy. Admiral, his weapons officer reported, the humans have made no aggressive moves. They are simply waiting. They do not need to be aggressive, Jektor replied bitterly. They have already demonstrated their power over us. Dr. Tanaka stood near the viewport, watching the Concordia. Through the transparent metal, she could see Jin's transformed ship pulsing with patterns of dark energy. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Admiral, she said quietly, you should accept his offer. Jektor's mandibles clicked with anger. Accept surrender to a primitive human? The Empire would never forgive such shame. The Empire abandoned Jin to die, Tanaka replied. He could have let hatred consume him. Instead, he has used his power to save lives. Thousands of them, including Valkyrie lives. She turned from the viewport to face the Admiral. Do you know what he did 3 weeks ago? A Valkyrie colony ship was pulled into a dark matter storm. 2,000 civilians, including children. Jin's network rescued every single one of them. They could have let your people die. Instead, they risked their own lives to save them. Jektor was quiet for a moment. He had read that report. The rescued colonists had told stories about humans who appeared from nowhere and guided their ship to safety. The Empire had classified the reports to prevent panic about human capabilities. He is building an empire of his own, Jektor said. An empire that threatens the natural order of the galaxy. No, Tanaka said firmly. He is building something better, a network of cooperation instead of domination. Through the ship's communication system, Jin's voice spoke again. But this time, it was not just to their ship. Somehow, his words reached every vessel in the Valkyrie fleet simultaneously. People of the Valkyrie Empire, Jin said, I know you see us as a threat. Your leaders tell you that humans are stealing ships and disrupting your way of life. But I want you to understand what we really are. The view screen activated, showing images from the dark matter network. Rescued crews from dozens of different species working together on hidden stations. Human engineers teaching alien scientists about navigator technology. Children from destroyed colonies playing together in gardens that existed between dimensions. We are not building an empire, Jin continued. We are building a sanctuary. A place where anyone can find safety when the universe turns hostile. Your own people know this. Ask the survivors of the colony ship Bright Future. Ask the crew of the research vessel Deep Thought. Ask the merchants who were saved from pirates in the Outer Rim. Admiral Jector felt his certainty cracking. The images on the screen showed his own people living peacefully alongside humans and other species. They looked happy, free, nothing like the prisoners his government claimed they were. Suddenly, alarms began screaming throughout the ship. The bridge shook as energy readings spiked beyond anything the sensors could measure. "Admiral," his science officer shouted, "the dark matter field is destabilizing. Something is causing a cascade failure." Through the viewport, they could see space itself beginning to tear. The dimensional barriers Jin had created around the fleet were breaking down. But not because Jin was releasing them. Something else was happening. Something catastrophic. Jin's voice came over the communication channel, urgent and strained. "Admiral, your containment devices are resonating with the dark matter field. They are creating a feedback loop that will tear apart this entire star system. You need to shut them down immediately." Jector looked at his instruments. The containment devices were indeed showing massive power spikes, but shutting them down would leave his fleet completely defenseless against the humans. "This could be a trick," his tactical officer warned. A new voice cut through the channel. It was Elena, speaking from one of the human ships. "Admiral, 3 of our people have already been consumed by the energy cascade trying to stabilize it. We are risking our lives to save your ships. This is not a trick." The tears in space were growing larger. Through them, Jector could see the horrible emptiness of the void between dimensions. If the cascade continued, it would consume everything in the system. Billions of people on nearby planets would die. "Shut down the containment devices," Jector ordered. "Admiral, that will leave us helpless," his weapons officer protested. "Do it," Jector commanded. "I will not be responsible for the destruction of entire worlds." The containment fields deactivated one by one. But the damage was already done. The cascade was continuing on its own momentum, growing stronger with each passing second. Through the dark matter network, Jin reached out to every human consciousness he could contact. "All ships. Emergency stabilization protocol. We need everyone working together to repair the tears in space." What happened next was the most incredible display of human cooperation anyone had ever witnessed. Across the galaxy, hundreds of human minds joined together through the dark matter network. They reached into the fabric of space itself and began weaving it back together with pure thought and will. Dr. Tanaka watched in amazement as the human ships moved in perfect coordination. They positioned themselves around the tears in space and began generating fields of organized dark matter. The chaotic energy gradually came under control, but the effort was enormous. Through the viewport, Tanaka could see Jin straining against forces that would have destroyed normal matter. His ship was stretching and bending as he channeled more power than any one person should be able to handle. "He cannot do this alone," she whispered. Then, louder, "I have to help him." Before Admiral Jector could stop her, Tanaka ran to the ship's communications array. She began transmitting her own thoughts into the dark matter network, offering what little understanding she had of the field's properties. Other Valkyrie crew members saw what she was doing and joined in. They could not manipulate dark matter like humans could, but they could contribute their scientific knowledge and analytical skills. Even Admiral Jector found himself adding his tactical expertise to the effort. Across the fleet, Valkyrie crews put aside their fear and prejudice to help the humans save their system. Together, they managed to stabilize the tears in space and prevent the cascade from spreading. When it was over, an exhausted silence fell across both fleets. Space looked normal again, but everyone who had participated in the rescue knew they had just witnessed something that would change the galaxy forever. Jin's voice came over the communication channels one last time. "Admiral Jector, your people helped save millions of lives today. You could have chosen to let the cascade spread rather than work with us. Instead, you chose cooperation over pride. That gives me hope for the future." Admiral Jektor looked around his bridge at the crew members who had risked everything to help their former enemies. They looked back at him with expressions of wonder and understanding. The fear was gone, replaced by something he had never expected to feel toward humans: respect. "What happens now?" the Admiral asked. "Now we establish the Dark Matter Highway Authority," Jin replied. "A joint organization that will oversee safe travel through the network. Humans will provide the navigation and rescue services. Other species will contribute their technology and knowledge. Together, we will explore the ruins left by the navigators and learn to use their gifts responsibly." Dr. Tanaka stepped forward. "Admiral, I formally request permission to join the Authority as a liaison between humans and the Velkari Empire." Jektor considered this. By all military regulations, Tanaka's actions should be considered treason. But the regulations had been written for a universe where humans were junior partners in galactic civilization. That universe no longer existed. "Permission granted," he said, "with the condition that you help us establish formal diplomatic relations with Jin's network." 6 months later, Jin stood on the observation deck of Gateway Station, the first permanent structure built jointly by humans and aliens in the dark matter network. The station existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously, serving as a hub for travel between the hidden highways. Through the transparent walls, he could watch human ships emerging from tiers in space itself, carrying rescued crews, scientific discoveries, and proof that cooperation could triumph over fear. Dr. Tanaka worked beside him, now serving as the first human ambassador to the Galactic Council. "Do you ever regret what happened?" she asked. "Being abandoned, I mean. Everything that came after." Jin thought about the scared engineer who had been left to die on a failing ship. That person felt like a stranger now, someone from another lifetime. But the memory was still important. It reminded him why the network existed. The Velkari thought they were disposing of a liability, he said. Instead, they created the galaxy's most important safeguard. The space between stars is no longer empty and hostile. It is a highway that only humans can travel, making us the most crucial navigators and protectors in known space. Through the station's quantum communicators, messages poured in from across the galaxy. Requests for rescue missions, reports of successful salvage operations, updates from research teams studying navigator ruins. The network had become essential to galactic civilization. The darkness between stars was once something to be feared, Jin continued. Now it is our greatest strength. We who were abandoned have become indispensable. We who were left to die have learned to tear the darkness itself and use it to save others. Elena's voice came over the intercom, reporting another successful rescue. A research vessel had been saved from a collapsing wormhole, its crew brought safely to Gateway Station. It was the 1,000th successful mission since the Authority was established. Jin smiled as he watched the rescued ship dock with the station. Each success proved that humans had found their true purpose among the stars. Not as servants or junior partners, but as guardians of the spaces where others could not go. The Velkari had tried to leave him to die in the darkness between stars. Instead, they had taught him to make that darkness his home. And from that home, Jin and his people would continue to reach out to anyone who needed help, proving again and again that the abandoned could become the indispensable, and that sometimes being left to die was just the first step toward learning to save everyone else. In the end, the galaxy had learned an important lesson. Never underestimate what humans can become when they have nothing left to lose and everything to prove.